Welcome to After the Hype. I'm your host, as always, Ryan Russell. With me, as always, is Chewie Darso.
Hi.
Emily Blake.
Oh, yeah.
And Jonathan Hardesty.
I came back alive and now I died again. Jesus.
These are two good cold opens. This one actually a little bit more literal. Special guest this week, we have Sam Garrison back.
Hello.
Sam, how you been doing?
I'm good, but I'm developing a complex. You keep inviting me to discuss like white trash abuse victims.
Swear it's not intentional. It's funny that
I mean, they're my people. I get it.
I mean, you were here for Jumanji.
Yeah.
There just happened to be a lot of good movies about that recently.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
Good.
You don't like this movie?
Well, 3 Billboards wasn't good. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
listen
good,
to our
though.
3
I'm
Billboards
great.
episode.
Yeah.
All right, we can do a quick where have you been doing. I'm not going to go first. Who wants to go first?
I have a good one.
Go for it.
Okay, so it's a bit of a story. So I went to watch Kingsman Golden Circle last night because my fiance made me, even though the first one was butt, and it was, as predicted, super butt.
Yeah, there's
But-
this particular scene in that movie that I loathe.
So nasty. Anyway, so as a palate cleanser, because we had like some good beers last night and I didn't want to waste them on a shitty Matthew Vaughn movie, I suggested something that my coworker had recommended to me called Aggretsuko, and it is a Sanrio cartoon, but for adults.
I've read about it.
It's
I wanted to start
amazing.
watching it.
Aggretsuko is a little fox who works an office job. She's
Red
a
panda.
Red panda. And she works the desk. She's a desk jockey. She hates her job. She hates her life. She's bored. She's 25. Her life is at a standstill, and she has a chauvinist boss. And to kind of combat this, instead of crying in the restroom, she goes and screams metal songs.
Nice.
And it's amazing. And then she goes and rents a karaoke booth at night and screams metal songs. And all of them are like legit metal. It's hilarious. And it's all about like her challenges in life and everything. And the metal is all, I think, not dubbed. I think it was originally in English because the subtitles are like baked into the cartoon in Japanese. And then they have English subtitles on top of it while she's singing in English. It's a total trip. But I highly recommend everyone watch it. Episodes are only like 10 to 15 minutes long. And it is
cool.
amazing.
I was going to ask that about the time length.
I will have to check that out. Sounds pretty good.
I think you would like it. Also, the soundtrack is available on Spotify, I learned.
Really? Nice.
I will go with, I'm stuck between a few of them, but the one I'm going to go with because I'm getting the most enjoyment out of it is Arrested Development Season 4, Fateful Consequences, which if you did not watch Arrested Development Season 4 the first time, it was just called Arrested Development Season 4. And then with Season 5 coming up, they went, hey, do you remember how, to use Sam word, but Season 4 was? They went back and recut the entire thing. So now it goes chronologically. Everyone is in every episode. They cut down the episodes from like 40 minutes to 22 minutes like they're supposed to be. And it works so much better.
Because it's structured like a TV episode.
Yeah, and it's structured like a TV episode. It's structured like Arrested Development. You actually have the people in it that you want to see now. You don't have these random episodes of just Job for an hour. And it's like, I mean, I guess it was kind of funny at parts, but I don't know why I'm still following this. Like, it just, the Season 4 did not work for me at all.
Yeah, I bounced almost
I
immediately
forgot
with the
most
pacing.
of it.
Oh,
You know,
and
watched like 3 episodes.
yeah, it just wasn't great. And then rewatching this redone, it's like, if this had come out, there'd have been a Season 5 already because we would have all been screaming for it because this is so much better. Like, it's still the lesser of the Arrested Development seasons, but this one's kind of like if this is as bad as it gets, then I'm going to love everything Arrested Development does.
Never underestimate the importance of editing.
Yeah, and it's
Hell yeah.
it is so impressive. And if you've been avoiding it or kind of fell off the Arrested Development train because of how bad it was originally, I strongly suggest you go back because I was right there. I did not like it. It kind of ruined a lot of Arrested Development for me, and it's really nice to kind of have it back.
I haven't been back since then because, yes, like
Yeah.
you said, it was a ruining moment for me.
Yeah, it was upsetting.
How many episodes is the new or the recut season?
22.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's a full season of 22-minute episodes. They lost some stuff. They definitely had to fix some things, and the fix doesn't go perfectly. Like, they have to green screen in some people because they're like hidden before, but now if they want to do it chronologically, they have to be there. So they try to overlap some footage, and it works sometimes. Sometimes you can see the green outlines of people, and it's like it's a little and they throw in some like wild lines they didn't have before to try to make things make sense, and those are really obvious. Like, oh, your face is away from us. This is clearly not you talking right now. But it's good enough where it's like the content is still solid and you can still enjoy it and just kind of forgive the strings, if you will. That's it for me, though.
I was really hyped up, and then I got Brian really hyped up for the new episode of the Goldbergs, because the internet was like, Rick Moranis is going to be in the next episode of the Goldbergs.
Fuck the Goldbergs. I'm done with that fucking show.
Oh no.
What happened?
The show is still, I still enjoy the show. They definitely feel like they are kind of circling the drain of inspiration. And we just do not care about the daughter anymore. So the subplot of her dropping out of college to start a band was just annoying. I'm like, she's just being dumb, okay? It's the 80s. College is still important in the 80s, and it's not that expensive. Just finish your freaking college degree and then go to Los Angeles and start a band. But whatever. The problem is that we were promised Rick Moranis' return. His return. We like just to see his face, see him do something. The whole episode, we're like, all right, Rick Moranis. All right, no. Where the fuck is Rick Moranis? Because it was supposed to be a Spaceballs themed episode. And you don't get Rick Moranis till the episode is done. It's kind of like a cut sequence in the credits type of thing, but it's in the episode at the very, very end. And it's a dream sequence. And it's not actually Rick Moranis. It's a voiceover of him as Dark Helmet. And it doesn't even sound like him. So I was just like, what? No! This is not what I wanted.
Damn.
We were so disappointed.
Yep. I was already kind of off the Goldberg train, and that one just kicked me off. Like, no ticket. I
just
totally
like,
off the
God.
train.
This used to be one of my favorite shows, and now I'm just frustrated, and I feel cheated.
That's
Yeah,
a
how did they
mishandling of
expect
that.
any other response from that? They had to know people were going to be pissed.
Don't advertise Rick Moranis is in your show and then not put Rick Moranis in your show.
To people like us who really miss him on screen.
I totally respect his reasoning for stepping away.
Oh, yeah,
like, it makes
totally.
sense. I get it.
Like, I thought it was going to be a sort of thing where he played some sort of teacher we've never seen before, and he'd be like, I don't know why you like the Spaceballs so much. Like, something like that. I thought it'd be a fun little cameo like that.
Like they've done with other people throughout the
Yeah.
entirety of that show. Especially when they bring like people from his actual life and they have them play like kind of against type from what the episode's about. Like, they've done such great things in that show, and then this last season has just been like, we're out of ideas. Like, we got greenlit for another season, but we didn't have material
Yeah,
for it.
it really feels like, all right, the 1980s something is starting to wear itself a little bit thin, because chronologically, the way you've covered movies makes no sense anymore at this point. And I still want to love the show, but I don't know. I'm sure they're getting another season. I hope that they figure themselves out and their writing gets back to being as funny as it used to be.
Or they just stop.
Yeah, or just don't be like The Office where you drill it into the ground and then everyone stops liking you at all.
Yeah, maybe just take this time and don't.
Yeah.
Be like Seinfeld. Just be like, all right, we need to stop.
Even they kind of overstayed their welcome that last season. But the last season still has some amazing episodes, but whatever. Emily, what about you? Where have you been doing?
I want to give a brief, before I talk about what I really want to talk about, I do want to give a shout out to Blackish. They have an ongoing storyline, spoiler alert for Blackish, where the parents have been moving steadily toward divorce. And they have not shied away from it. That would have been an easy topic to do one episode where their marriage was in trouble. They went to counseling. Ha, ha, ha. Now they're back together. Instead, it has not gotten better. Their relationship has gotten steadily more toxic. Not even toxic, like abusive or anything. Nobody's in the wrong. And that's what else is really great about it, is nobody's particularly wrong. They're just acknowledging that sometimes marriages go wrong. And I, as a child of divorce who is now a divorcee, I really, really, really appreciate that they're doing that, because most sitcoms do not go there.
Is that where Grownish is coming out of?
I guess. I haven't been watching Grownish.
Okay.
But it started, I think it's in its second season.
I thought it was still in its first, but
first.
I could be wrong. But
yeah, I mean, she's experiencing things too, and sometimes they'll put her in episodes and they make connections, but it's never annoying. Yeah, so I appreciate that. But I also want to talk about Wyatt Cenac's Problem Areas on HBO. I really enjoy it. I've seen a couple episodes now. It's a new show. Wyatt Cenac, if you know, he was on The Daily Show for a bit. He's a really great comedian. His delivery is very sort of deadpan, like this is life. But he is going about, it's not as much on. I mean, there is comedy, but it's not really a comedy show. It's about policing in America and the relationship between cops and minorities, and he's pretty much focusing exclusively on that. And every episode, he's finding a new way. He's also doing other stuff as little side bits, but every episode is kind of focusing on the history of police and people of color interaction, and it's really educational. But it's also like entertaining, and it's good at showing different perspective, and I've really been enjoying it. I feel like if you like Adam Ruins Everything, you probably would really like Wyatt's Next Problem Areas. It's on HBO.
John, what about you?
So I've been through Audible listening to a book you may have heard of called Last Call at the Nightshade Lounge.
Yay!
Yeah.
I met the author.
I've met him too. I finished it about a week ago. And really, really enjoyed it. It was so fun, and a fun premise, fun characters, and
Does Paul read it, or does an actor read it?
an actor reads it. And yeah, it was funny hearing her vocal stylings of different characters, and
Oh, that's right, because the lead's a female. That would be weird for Paul to read it. Yeah.
yeah.
And
But
a really
but
high-pitched
it also
voice.
illustrates kind of a funny thing I've been noticing with these books I've been listening to through Audible is that guys can't seem to read women parts well. And vice versa. There's always like this weird like goofiness to it. On the guy's end, they always try to make the women sound sexy, and it kind of falters. Like it's like, okay, this is weird. Or in this case, the dudes sound like doofy, and not as a negative. I enjoyed it, but it was an adjustment at first.
So you have not listened to a Neil Gaiman book yet.
I've not yet. No.
There you go.
Also, I
He
would
can
say,
read women very well.
and
Okay, cool.
anything read by Jefferson Mays, if Jefferson Mays is the person who reads it, it's worth getting. He's really good at reading.
Yeah. No.
And the guy who read Game of Thrones, like that guy
Okay.
does a very good job.
Cool. Yeah. No. And I don't mean it as a negative because I enjoyed it, but it's a weird thing, and in some parts it's humorous because like I get this as a dramatic moment, but when you're trying to scream and like watch out as a woman trying to act as a guy, sometimes it gets lost in
Watch out.
Watch out!
Watch out!
Yeah. Or yeah.
All of those were terrible.
Which people talking were doing impressions of men?
That's why I don't read audiobooks, but still. Regardless, the book was awesome, and shout out to Paul.
Cool. And that was everybody, right? 'Cause Sam went first.
Oh yeah.
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 Cool. Okay, so today's movie is I, Tonya, if you didn't notice when you clicked play on the episode. This movie came out late in the year last year and was another, much like our previous episode recorded today, big Oscar baity movie. This one, I think,
Better.
won more and deserved more. But we'll get into all of that after we do a breakdown. So Sam was so kind to volunteer this week because I was not going to make her do it. And she's like, well, no, I got this shit.
Because she looks fly as hell.
Yeah.
I look fresh to death today, you guys.
I'm assuming that means Sam is prepared and can do this. Right?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
good. I'm
right.
good.
Cool.
All right.
So here we go. I, Tonya, in 30 seconds. Here we go.
So, Lavanna Harding signs her daughter up for skate lessons, even though she's really teeny tiny and a soft 4. Her daughter is Tonya Harding, a protege, and she is she goes on winning. She's awesome. She is the first U.S. woman to land a triple axel in competition. She's very athletic. She kicks ass. And then on her way to the Olympics, she loses a spot to Nancy Kerrigan. Her shitty husband's bodyguard kneecaps Nancy. They end up competing anyway because everything's
You're out of time.
shit balls. This is the first time I
But
failed a
guys-
breakdown.
Oh.
But Sam, it's not your fault.
It's nothing is anybody's
No, it's
fault.
not your fault.
You have no idea how happy I am to see somebody lose because we've had so many successes in a row right now. It's just like,
The story's complicated.
it is very complicated.
I
but
should have
that
just
was-
been like, you know.
You know what happened.
Yeah.
That's one thing I actually love about this movie is it turns out we don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Kind of not.
No one does.
All right. Well, that was a wonderful failure of a breakdown. Thank you, Sam.
Yes. I didn't even get to say Galooly.
You really galoolied it.
Oh, God, I did, didn't I?
Where's the point place I want to start with this thing is does everybody around the table remember when it happened?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're all born in the 80s.
Yeah.
Some of us were not born in the 80s.
You're
Yeah.
born.
79, right?
78.
Yeah. it's
I am an elderly person.
So old.
The rest of us were born in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember if Sam was 90 or 89.
88.
Fuck, I'm off today. I'm usually pretty good with this stuff. But yeah, so all of us were definitely around when it happened. But like, I was young. I remember watching it though. Like I remember, like
I was invested in it.
Yeah, like,
I was really into figure skating.
So was
I.
I took figure skating lessons because like I was really into it. I hated it.
Back in the 90s when America together was really into figure
Was
skating.
it because of the Mighty Ducks?
No.
Oh, because in that
That's
movie
what-
there's a boy that is like a figure skater and then he becomes a
Yeah, it's
hockey
Danny
player.
Tamborelli of Nickelodeon fame. And
But partial,
nothing
like-
else.
Part of my interest was like in watching these sports. I was like, ice skating sounds pretty fun, and it turns
Yeah.
out it is. You know, when you live in Fargo and like it's ice all the time, yeah, you can do that.
But they call out to it at one point in the movie where they say this was like a ratings like boon for them, and they weren't wrong. Like there was no way they didn't put her on the team.
But there was also no way they were ever giving her that medal.
Yep, no chance.
Didn't matter. She could have been floating on air.
Yeah.
They would not have given it to
She
her.
could have had
Because
the most
yeah.
flawless run of all time. She would have been in the top 10, and which is where she kind of ended. She was in 8th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, for her, that's pretty. She probably deserved better than that.
But there's no way.
That's
no
what was so
way.
interesting about this time in figure skating, though, because in addition to Tonya Harding, you had like Surya Bonali, who was landing backflips, which are against regulation, but she
Yeah.
was so athletic and so powerful, and because she was a black woman, never got the recognition she deserved.
I
Like,
saw her at the Mark in the Quad Cities.
Did you really?
I did with
Oh.
Elvis Costello. I think.
Not
No, not Costello.
Costello.
Good Lord, Stoico.
Stoico.
Elvis Costello,
be a
the
really
famed
fun
punk
fucking-
musician and
I got to
figure
see
skater.
I got to see Dorothy Hamill at the Mark for
Okay.
Cinderella on Ice.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it was such an interesting time because people were doing like unprecedented athletic feats. The triple axel. I don't even know that they don't know that it's physically possible to do the quadruple
Yeah.
for women. So like they were literally like kind of maxing out human potential at this time in figure skating, which is insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was
And the sport was changing. It's like it was really cool. It was a
And-
neat time in figure skating.
and it was changing
history.
because of people like Tonya Harding, and like that's why we were all into it. And it's one of those things where it's weird now being in my 30s and being older and seeing these like movies from my childhood or like from events in my childhood being like current events, because I remember being a kid and having my dad like, yeah, it's too early to make a movie. And I'm like, Dad, that was forever ago. Like, like it's a
I
period
wasn't
piece.
even in school yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like this one, it's kind of interesting to be able to look back on it and like, yeah, I remember watching all this happen, and I was one of those people who thought Tonya Harding was the person who fucking whacked
I did
Nancy
too.
Kerrigan.
Everyone
Yeah.
did. Everyone,
Yeah.
or at
I
the very
didn't.
least that Galooly did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this movie was like, wait, what? He wasn't the one who hit her in the knees, and she didn't order it. Maybe
She was like 4 people removed.
if this
Fucking
movie is to
Sean.
be believed, there's no 100%. Like we don't know 100% yet. If she did, no.
I wasn't on either side when I was watching this stuff happen because I thought it was unfair to Tonya Harding. I didn't think that she had that much to do. I knew she had something to do with it. I mean, I was a little kid, but I even at that age, I was just like, she's getting a bad rap, and I don't understand why.
I just love that it paved the way for my girl Chrissy Yamaguchi.
But like there's really interesting things in this movie that take from that period of time, and that's kind of where I want to start with this thing. Is like this movie went for period accuracy in set design and performance and everything.
Costumes are fantastic.
Costumes.
Yeah.
Didn't give a shit about music. Music is not from the time period at all. They just kind of throw
It's all
in
whatever
Yeah.
fit the scene.
And that's kind of like whatever.
well, it fits with the fact they do a lot of fourth wall breaks, and so
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's
it
a
fits-
bit fantasy.
It fits in the idea of us in 2017 or 2018 watching this movie. Oh, okay, yeah, the music works. But as far as like being a place in time, it's kind of squishy on the music, but who cares?
I loved that about it.
Yeah.
It was there's so many of those technical elements and stylistic elements I love that it kind of juxtaposed against the weirdness of being like, I remember this design. I remember these kitchens, these you know
Blonde wood.
appliances,
Yeah.
the coats, the jeans, the
Corded phones,
cars, like
Bangs.
yeah, the bangs,
Oh,
like all like
God.
the
I
phone with the
hated
cord that
poodle
goes
hair.
all the way down to the
I
basement.
hate
like,
poodle hair, guys. I don't understand why women ever thought it looked good on them. There's no one that can pull off poodle hair except if you're a man in a hairband, and then it's just funny. It's like, it doesn't make you look good.
Took some real personal toll on the
I just
poodle hair in
don't
this one.
like it. I hate it.
I mean, I think Margot Robbie looks good in whatever she does. I think she did okay with the poodle hair.
Well, they toned down the poodle hair. You look at things of Tonya Harding in real life; those
Oh, yeah.
bangs were huge.
Yeah, that's true.
those bangs were violent.
She bangs. She bangs.
That's where she
I
kept
had
her
those
secrets.
bangs.
You did.
My
Oh.
mom's hairstylist did that to my hair.
I'm
and
sorry.
Then once it's done, once those bangs are that long, That's the only way you can fucking wear them, because otherwise they're in your face. So you have to take the curly brush and curl your bangs over so that they don't like get in your eyes.
Yeah.
And
That
then
sounds
they
awful.
graduated to the hot dog bangs in the 90s. It was just
Chewie doesn't like bangs.
not when they're like that. I just-
Moving more about like just the time period. Did it ring false for anybody? Did everybody buy into it?
I bought it.
I bought it.
Chewie, you mentioned something about the set design when we were watching it. Do you remember now?
Oh, which scene were we watching?
I don't know. You just mentioned like 3 different times, like, God, the sets in this movie are so good. I'm like, oh, I'll bring that up when we start recording,
Well,
like I'm doing right now.
They did just a great job capturing the season, I guess, more like the difference in seasons and the age it was part of. Because I think you might have been actually remembering when I talked about their makeup.
Okay.
Because I remember talking about that specifically. Because this movie does a great job at making everyone look their social class, essentially. A lot of movies will talk about social class, but everyone will still look fabulous. And that's not true a lot of the time. A lot of times when you're lower class, you got a lot of blemishes on your face because you don't have the money to buy all that complex makeup to hide it. Or to buy the really nice clothes or whatnot. And they definitely showed the divide in classes, in the class system. Because a lot of times Tonya Harding does not look great.
She doesn't look polished.
She
like
doesn't
you
look polished
set her
at
next
all.
to Nancy Kerrigan, and Nancy Kerrigan's
Yeah.
posture is nice. Her makeup is flawless. Everything about her says, "I am.
She's
I am
a
a
princess.
lady." Yeah,
What's
exactly.
so funny though is Nancy Kerrigan's dad was like a UPS driver. She was also like really working
But
class.
she played the game better.
Yeah.
She polished herself up and she played that princess role, and Tonya Harding just wanted to skate.
Well, and they do that in the scene where they're
Yeah.
roommates in the hotel room, where she's just like, "Oh, everybody thinks Nancy Kerrigan's this perfect lady. She would look at her. Like, she's smoking pot. She's doing the same
Yeah.
shit I'm doing."
Yeah.
The one thing that I wish they'd kind of touched on a little bit, because they only kind of mention it, but they didn't really. They do a good job telling it. They did a, in my opinion, pretty piss poor job on showing it. Was they keep showing her stitching her own costumes, and like she's like, "Oh, can you?" Like she even says to the judge, "If you give me $10,000 to get my own costumes, then I'll look better." But they didn't really show anybody else's costumes, so I always thought that hers looked just as good as everybody else's.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
didn't know if that was
point.
me not knowing what I'm talking about, or did they just not show how much better everyone else's costumes
No, they
looked.
didn't. And that's what was really frustrating. Like Nancy Kerrigan did wear like Vera Wang on the ice and stuff. I don't think she paid for it. I think she had people to
Sponsors
help
or-
her and
yeah.
sponsorship and everything because she was more palatable. And yeah, and that was what was really interesting is like they didn't show that juxtaposition at all.
Because
Because
that's
even
a good point. They're relying on people to remember.
yeah,
or
because
know
even
already.
even the coach's fur coat still just looked like a working class fur. You know, like not to be
the coaches.
Well, and when we
yeah,
went,
not
and-
to be a snob, but it
The-
wasn't
shit,
like
but that was Black Fox. That's
it wasn't
not working
like
class.
it wasn't like high end looking though. It wasn't like when you see like go to the opera or something. It wasn't. I don't know.
And when-
Compared to her rabbit skin coat, that Black Fox looked amazing.
Well, and when we watched all this back in the day, when we experienced it, like I wasn't paying attention to the fashion or the styling, and so to have that
That's why
context,
you watch skating though.
well, at that age, it's just like these are cool moves. This is like you're jumping around. This is like with swords on your feet. You know, it's like this is dangerous. This is cool. This is exciting. But the idea of the class and the costume, that context would have actually been really cool to have now coming back to it. Whereas like her costumes in this movie looked good, but like I didn't get her class from it because there was no context or comparison.
that pink thing was hideous.
But
But you never saw
That-
what it was
but they-
compared
but
against.
That's true.
But that's honestly, that actually shows a little bit of class divide within itself, because they're like, we need you to look pretty. And she's like, well, what does high class people think look pretty? Frills and pink.
It reminded me
So
of Pretty
she
in
went-
Pink, when
yeah.
she shows up with that dress and she's like, "This is a great dress," and
Like,
it's like it's
yeah,
really
yeah.
not.
It's the most cliche idea of what a pretty princess should look like. And she just went all in on it. And then they're still like, we don't like it. And it's because there's a big difference between being able to afford the expensive fabrics that no matter what, expensive fabric lays on the body different than cheap fabric.
But
You'll
I-
notice.
Yeah.
I wish they'd played with it a little bit more, though. I know this is a weird thing for us to harp on, especially for.
No, it's not, because
Yeah.
that was what the movie was trying to. This movie was trying to structure itself as like being pro working class and therefore pro Tonya. But at the end of the day, like she didn't give enough of a shit to play the game.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, she was a good skater, but like I said, Surya Bonali was better. Nancy Kerrigan was arguably the better skater. And at the end of the day, like, it didn't have to do with Tonya's polish. It was just another excuse. So I don't know if the movie, but I think I don't know if it was like a purposeful choice to obfuscate the comparison between costumes and stuff or not, because I think it was just another example of Tonya pushing the blame on other people instead of like...
It's just weird that they decided to hit on it and then walk away from it. Like, if they had just shown her stitching her own costumes the whole way through and never mentioned it, I think we would have been like, oh, okay, we know she can't afford
They
costumes.
could have had her just walk by a group of skaters and show them in the background even, all looking glamorous.
Because they don't really... It's just a weird thing. They decided to hit on it and then change their mind. Like, it's like, all right, well, if you're going to take it out, then just take it out. Like, it's not a hard scene to lift out of the movie.
It's kind of like they assumed we would look at like Allison Janney's character and be like, that's the connection we make compared to everyone else. But it's like, no, she's not the costume in this. It's like the costumes are Tonya's character. If it's everyone's fault but hers, the costumes are going to have to reflect that.
And just on a purely visible filmmaking standpoint, I know you wanted more from the costumes, but I think they did as much as they could, because the other thing that they always said held Tonya Harding down was her artistry, and that is a huge part of figure skating. And Tonya Harding always talked about her physicality and the things she could pull off, which is fantastic. Yes, you did that triple axel, and it was beautiful, but if you're not doing like the flowy arms, the poses, the chest out, the head things, like, there's so much that goes in with the physicality of the entire performance that if you're relying all on your technical skills, you're still going to get graded down. And they did not really show that. They never gave us a juxtaposition between another figure skater's artistic prowess versus hers. We never got to see that.
It's interesting because, especially since we're recording both episodes in one day, but we kind of have the problem with both this one and the episode recorded before this, which was a disaster artist, where we're making these biopics about people that are still alive. And they're people who have signed over their rights and are like involved in the filmmaking in a way or two, and you don't want to offend them. You want to be on their side. So you have these things where it's like, well, we could show Tonya being trashier and a little less polished and that sort of stuff, but then she might not like it and she might take away rights, and then we would have a problem. So we have to show her being a great skater and show it from her point of view, where we see how Tonya sees herself as this beautiful, elegant, wonderful skater.
I feel like there's a I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I feel like there's a solution to that wouldn't have made her look bad. I mean, just sitting, having a moment of watching Nancy, for example, which would have been perfect, on ice, and having her coach be like, see, Tonya, see how she does X thing, and Tonya being like, fuck that, I don't need to do that, I'm fine the way I am. And then we would have had a point of comparison, but that would have kept with the existing theme.
Yeah. And you could have even had, like, because whoever did the mocap or stunt skating for Margot Robbie was great. Like, you could have even had the same person do it for the Nancy Kerrigan person. Like, so you could have seen, like, no, I see everything the same. And you would have had this, like, I'm doing exactly what they're doing, like, but you're not, because otherwise you'd have the scores that reflect that.
Then you could implicate us as viewers even more so, because as we watch figure skating, we're doing that.
Yeah.
We're judging that on those same kind of those same factors, whether we realize it or not. And to kind of play that against us in the movie would have probably been an interesting way to go about it.
Yeah, and not to say that I dislike the movie. I really enjoyed the movie.
I love
the movie,
there's
just like they chose to hit on these things and then kind of walk away from them that I thought was odd choices.
That's where
Go
that's
ahead.
where in general I'm still really not sure how I felt about the movie, because I'm not sure exactly what it was trying to say. I was hoping for a little bit more of the skating part of it. Yeah. And I thought maybe we were going to get some of it after she landed the triple axel and she talked about how excited she was, and she's like, sorry, no one ever lets me talk about this. Because for me, that's the interesting part, is she was kind of, if she was a victim of anything, I mean, besides like the horrific abuse, but in terms of the sport, if she was a victim of anything of these judges, it was the shift in how we score figure skating now, where athleticism in women's figure skating is more rewarded than it used to be. And it's because of people like her and like Surya Bonali being kind of vanguards for that and kind of like victims of the transition. And I was hoping maybe they'd delve more into that and like how Galuli kind of fucked that up for her. Like, she had an opportunity to make change and to be loved and to be a future, because they show her signing that thing for that little girl, and like kind of fucked it up with her anger or his anger or whomever, you know. But it was like they got so bogged down in the personal
incident.
drama and the incident, and then they wanted to turn it back around on the viewers, but then the movie kept going for 40 minutes after she says that. It was like, what the fuck are you trying to say?
I think that's the theme of the movie. They say it several times. It's not about the skating.
But that's
not all about the skating.
But that's the problem, is they didn't decide what it was about, because the incident happens and then they keep plotting on and on and on and on, and it kind of got muddled, like what happened and when it happened and between nationals and the Olympics, and we never seen Nancy. And again, this reminded me so much of 3 Billboards, and I think that's where my frustration was. Because it was like, oh my God, look at this poor working class victim woman. And then the actual victim never gets shown. We never see more than a profile shot of Nancy's face. And I mean, they fucked up her knee. And if that's what the movie was about, if that's what they wanted to talk about, like, be cool. And then the whole time too, like, knowing what I know about figure skating and stuff, knowing that there was a more interesting version of this story featuring a person of color happening on the other side of the world, I was just like, Jesus Christ, it's like 3 Billboards all over again.
No, okay, because Hi Tonya, I really enjoyed. I love I'm obsessed with fourth wall breaks.
I think this movie is about her, not necessarily the incidents. It's a biopic.
But here's where and this is where it gets interesting for me, and why I really enjoy this movie. And whether or not I agree with it doesn't matter. The movie is totally on Tanya's side. And, like, there's parts where they try to show, like, yeah, she did fuck
Is
up.
it,
but
though?
it's
Because it feels like they're mocking her the whole time, even down to the last title card. She wants you to know she's a good mother. Like, but they have it in her shitty voice.
But it's still in
I don't
her...
think that's mocking.
I think it's still in her, like, brand and her sense of humor. Like, it still felt like her the whole way through. But when you get to the actual incident, she essentially leaves the movie. And that's where I think, like, it proves that it's on her side, because I don't think this movie tries to say that she was guilty of anything and should have been implicated in anything other than bringing those people into their lives. That's what she was guilty of introducing them. But other than that, she didn't do anything according to the movie. And the way they show that is by as soon as they get to the incident, she's like, "That's what you're all here for, folks, the incident." And then she's out. For a solid, like, 25 minutes, there's next to no Margot Robbie in the movie. She's in the background of one scene, like, "Hey, do you still want to do it?" And she's like, "I don't care." And, like, they really play it as if she had nothing to do with it. And I thought that was kind of an interesting way to show the filmmakers and the storyteller's point of view, as well as Tanya's point of view, without fully blatantly going, it's not her fault, because everything else they say is not her fault. They kind of say it is her fault. And the one time she doesn't say it's not my fault, they're kind of agreeing with her and they don't have her say it. I thought that was kind of interesting and a pretty smart filmmaking move to both be, like, very, like, preachy, but not being preachy.
I want to go back to Sam's point a little bit. One of my frustrations with this movie, and not even, I love the movie, I think it's great, but it's sort of interesting timeliness in the fact that I think one of the points of the movie is that our society is inherently built to resist anything that tries to be different. The problem with that is it's being told from the perspective of a white person in a very white field. And I think, there are no people of color in this movie. And I just thought, wow, it's really funny to watch a movie about someone who's working class white feeling like the outside, which is very reflective of the current wave of Trump's America feeling right now. And that's why it resonates, is that there are a lot of white people in lower income communities who have made themselves the victim. And I'm not saying that life is easy for them, but they're sort of dismissing the concerns of people of color because they're saying, well, see, life's been really hard for me. And I think this movie speaks very much to that feeling of woe is me, my life's been so hard, when they're not even, like, realizing the privilege that they have been given, and that they're, it's just interesting to see a movie about being the outsider told with no people of color in it.
It's really fascinating too, because her main competitors for the US team were Christy Yamaguchi, an Asian American, and Nancy Kerrigan, who also came from a working class background. And it was just like, by telling Tanya's story in a vacuum and without the context of what was happening in the sport, and then wrapping that up in a, like, kind of, it was cut like a comedy and shot like a comedy and had all these fourth wall breaks where she's getting the shit beaten out of her. It was just like, what the fuck are you saying? Like, it just felt to me like they were kind of just reveling in the misery of it all and kind of poking fun, like, haha, look at the poor girl. And it just kind of bummed me out. It left me with an icky feeling as much as it was entertaining in the moment.
The thing with the especially the fourth wall breaking and the scenes of violence, it's a really weird, not necessarily bad, but weird choice to try to undercut domestic violence, brutal domestic violence with comedy because they do it a few times of like, here's this really awful, like she's getting her head shoved into a plane of glass and she's like, and he beat the shit out of me. It's like, it's weird, like
they're pulling fucking guns on each other.
yeah, and like it's
that never happened.
yeah.
That's what I mean, though. It's like the fact that this is plausible right now. Shouldn't we address
No, I mean,
this?
she like that's what she's
No,
like.
I know.
I
Yeah.
never did this.
But then he pulls a gun on her later, and
Yeah.
it's just like
A loaded
Jesus.
gun.
Yeah,
And shot her.
But I think that was a great scene in the car where she points out the fact that this fucking cop is not helping her. It's
Yeah.
really obvious something
Yeah,
is
yeah.
wrong and no one's helping her. Or when she's lying on the bed and she's looking at us and saying, "Well, my mom hit me and she loved me."
Yeah.
I thought this movie did a good job of showing how someone can convince themselves to stay in an abusive relationship in a way that isn't all woe is me, I'm so sad. It's more like it's fucking fine. I'm happy. And it's all just this facade.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think they did a great job with that. I feel like it was an odd choice some of the time. Like sometimes I think they missed the mark. Like they went for comedy over like commentary, and it's like maybe it wasn't the right choice, whereas it didn't really register as a problem with me until the second watch. The first watch I really had like next to no problems with the movie. My biggest complaint was that I didn't want Allison Janney to win Best Supporting Actress because I wanted Lauren Metcalf to win it, and that was the only
And see,
reason.
I wanted the woman from Phantom Thread to win it, but they were all so fucking good.
I actually did like I, Tonya better than Lady Bird because honestly I felt I, Tonya was more relatable to me as a person.
I like the movie I, Tonya more than Lady
Yeah.
Bird. I love Lauren Metcalf and
Yeah.
she did such a good job. And I love Allison Janney. She used to come to my Starbucks all the time and we were buds and she was super cool. She like one of the coolest women
She
in the
also
world.
plays the game. Like
Yeah.
she plays that Oscar game. She knows all the names of people. She goes to all the events, all of that.
And she totally deserved it.
How
She was
great.
wonderful.
Yeah, she was
Like,
amazing.
she was wonderful.
Like she was
amazing.
terrifying, and that bird, and like
And her scene in the
outside of
diner.
the Oscars, outside of the Oscars, for this movie, I'm just trying to think of like this perspective on the violence and how they decided to choose the tone that they did. And for me, I'm like, I wish I could see the interviews, the actual interviews, because I think you mentioned it, Emily, about her sense of humor. I don't know if Brian mentioned it about like, Tonya Harding. Everyone gives you the impression that she has an odd sense of humor. And maybe the way she described the domestic violence influenced how they shot it. And we just don't get that perspective because, like, a lot of times when I'm watching it, it's very harsh domestic violence, but she's never just down for the count. The entire time, like, he'll punch her, she'll say something to the camera, and then she'll punch him and walk away. Like, she's never just taking the abuse by herself. She's still an active participant in the abuse in a way. Like, because she's fighting back the whole time.
No, that makes sense.
It's just, I'm just,
And you might be onto something because I don't remember the interviews very well.
well, they don't show them. I'm talking about the actual interviews. Because
Yeah.
they based this entire movie off of those.
Right. And
We never got to see them.
to what you were saying, I was
They
agreeing
show
with
some
you.
of them in the end credits.
Yeah, very, of her mom and Giuliani. They never show the interview with
Giuliani.
Sorry.
Giuliani.
God, who is more representable, Giuliani or Galuli?
But Galuli, and then the stupid bodyguard guy, but they never show
Sean,
Tonya
that was
Harding's
so great.
face.
But let's
The only time they'd show Tonya Harding's face was with her figure skating.
Yeah. Let's move a little bit more. We were kind of talking to Allison Janney. I kind of want to move away from the violence instead of just talking the whole episode on that. But I kind of want to talk about the supporting cast. We mentioned Allison Janney. Did anybody else have anything to say about it? She was great.
The scene, for me, the scene where she tells Tonya that she loves her and it turns out that she's just trying to get information, like, or she's proud of her.
Oh man.
Heartbreaking.
That is like, and I personally have had a lot of issues with my mom over the last couple years, and that to me, that's really hard to watch, because that was the moment where I could relate to Tonya the most, and I just felt absolutely, that was just such a brilliant performance and so horrible and so mean.
You felt the betrayal.
I felt that betrayal,
Yeah.
man.
That scene won her the Oscar, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like that, she was great the whole way
I
through.
still
You
meant
bought
everything I
it.
said.
But you bought it in that
Yeah.
moment. You felt it. You're like, finally, and then to discover that it was a lie. It's just because the audience was with Tonya in that moment. You were along for the ride. You saw how happy she was to finally win her mother's approval.
But
and then it
here's
was
the
a
thing.
lie.
I don't think that her mom was lying when she said, I still meant everything I said. I don't think she lost.
I do. She was she was way smarter than Tonya.
Oh,
and
yeah.
she kept Tonya dumb her whole life because that way she could manipulate her. And I think this was an instance of giving her daughter exactly what she knew she wanted.
I mean, yeah, you could
And
probably.
then just for her own gain.
I
If
think
she
then
really
to rip
loved her
it away
daughter,
from
she wouldn't
her.
have done that to her.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think the
Yeah.
most honest moment from the mother was when they were at the diner
Oh, and I want to see her
And-
face.
Yeah.
No.
No, when they're
when
talking together.
When she's talking to
yeah,
her
yeah.
and she's like, I had a nice mom that got me nothing.
Yeah.
Type of
no,
thing.
yeah.
I think,
Such a good scene.
Yeah.
It's up there as one of my favorite scenes just because of how
See,
was.
my favorite Allison Janney scene is when she chucks the knife into her.
Oh god, that was so funny.
Like,
that
it's-
was the
so,
one moment
like-
her character went, I might have gone too far.
Yeah.
It was so horrible and funny. It's what we were talking about earlier with the
Yeah.
violence. It was horrible and funny at the same time, and you're like, I'm laughing, but this is awful.
Oh yeah, it's that moment of like, well, there's something you can never take back.
Yeah.
You threw a knife in me.
She thought she was going to dodge it like she was dodging everything else and didn't.
Oof. And it's not a bad stab. Like, she probably didn't even have to go to the hospital. She might need a stitch or two, but like, still,
but-
just
It's what
Or
happened.
at least a tetanus shot.
They lingered on it in the right way. It's that moment where the dark humor worked, like where it hit.
yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
It's like, oh shit, I just did that. Oh shit, you just did that. What the fuck? What happens now?
Yep.
You know?
Look at
Oh,
how detailed
I-
that knife is. That's a really ordinary knife.
Yep. It's like, oh, I guess our relationship is forever different. And it's a really great, very well shot, well directed, just very good scene. In a movie where I agree with Sam, where it's like they make a lot of weird decisions on pacing and tone, I think that one was correct.
Can we talk about I want to talk about Craig Gillespie for a minute.
Sure.
Because I think that's what bugged me about this is he also directed Lars and the Real Girl, which left me with such a gross. I don't
I did
like
not
that.
like that one.
No,
Yeah,
I don't
never
like that he
seen it.
cutifies mental illness and grief. I don't like that he's cutifying domestic abuse. I don't think he has a right to tell these stories. And I think it shows. I think he thinks he's being clever and original. I think he thinks of himself as sort of Adam McKay, because this was very similar to The Big Short and how it was cut
yeah.
together and shot. But The Big Short, punching way the fuck up.
Oh, yeah.
This is punching way the fuck down, and he has
Yeah.
no right. And I guess that's where, for me, in that context, like knowing he was the director, that's where I had the hardest time watching this. And I think maybe if I had watched it not knowing him and not feeling how I feel about
Yeah.
his movies, I would have felt differently. But
Yeah, I don't have any. Since I never saw Lars the Real Girl or even thought about who directed this, I didn't have any connection to it.
I knew that going into it, and I kind of went, I'll give it a shot. Because like I usually try to do a 3 strikes and you're out. Like, you've made 3 movies I dislike. I'm not seeing anything else you make. And he's made one that I didn't like at all, and then he made this one, which I enjoyed. I don't disagree with the problems you're pointing out, but I agree with you in the fact of he doesn't know what target to aim for a lot.
yeah.
And it comes really to fruition when it's like it's the moments of like black comedy where comedy has no place. And that's why I think like sometimes it works, and like those are the scenes like when the knife gets stuck in her arm. I'm like, okay, this scene, like the black comedy tone, tonally, directionally, performance, I think it all worked. And then you have other scenes where it's like, this isn't a moment where we should be laughing, and you went for laughs just because you know the next scene you're gonna need a laugh, or you need like this scene is so dark you have the next within frames.
They should give him a Marvel movie.
Yeah. But like you'll have a moment where like here's something horrible, and within 3 frames you have Allison Janney cutting in with a joke, and it's just like like you could have just let us sit with that, because you're not telling a happy story. Like Tonya Harding's story, especially from this time period and even the rest of her life, is not necessarily
No, it's not
a
happy.
happy story. She might be a happy person and made something out of it, but this moment in time is not uplifting.
I
Yeah,
don't
and-
think. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, and I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of these stylistic things the movie does in service of this that by themselves, I like those stylistic things, talking to the camera,
Yeah.
cutting in such a kind of a humorous way and doing all that. But yeah, like Sam, it left me feeling kind of like unsure at the end of the movie.
I think it really worked for me. I think it really worked for me because I felt like Tonya Harding isn't the kind of person who's going to sit there and be like, my life was so sad. Tonya Harding's
Totally,
the kind
yeah.
of person who's going to be like, fuck
Yeah.
you. I'm fine the way I am. There's nothing wrong with me. You're the assholes. It's not my fault. You know, it's that kind of attitude. And I think playing those moments as super serious would not have fit what she, like, the personality that she espouses.
So then maybe
Yeah.
my problem is I just, it's vague, my memory of her as a person. I got the skating, I got the incident, you know, like there's a lot of things I'm having to pull back from a very vague memory.
This
As a-
movie,
as-
like Tanya, seeks to wash its hands of all responsibility.
Well, I really
But I think that works for Tonya Harding. Like I think like if you're trying to tell Tonya Harding's story, I think they made the right choice. I just think there's a few times where the landing wasn't stuck, but that's okay.
And
Ah,
main reason-
skating metaphor.
The main reason I like it, what you were saying, Emily, is I really connect with her on the level of fuck your pity. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never liked it when people pity me. It's not a useful emotion. And there's only one instance in this entire movie when she actually wants somebody's pity and she doesn't get it. And that's at the end when the judge takes away her right to ever do figure
it's
skating
earned.
ever again.
Yeah.
Like that was the one time she
That
asked for
was
someone's pity and she didn't get it. And
Such a good scene.
so like I'm on her side the whole time. It's true.
But I don't. I guess for me too, they kept making a joke of how Tonya absolves herself of all responsibility in these instances. When that's the frustration, is like she's a shitty person, and like yeah, she doesn't want our pity, but she doesn't want to do anything to actively better her situation either. You know, and
yeah.
and I don't like the. Yeah, it's just it's really tricky, and I think for me, I don't think that like being combative and violent in response to violence and like having that attitude, but still like not actively bettering yourself is a response I admire. It's something
I
that
wouldn't say I
frustrates
admire
me.
it, but I
you're supposed to
connect to
admire
it.
it.
Yeah, and I guess for me, I just find Tonya Harding such a frustrating character because she had this innate skill and was too stubborn to do anything with it. And that's where I find the movie behaving like Tonya and Tonya behaving how she does. Just, I don't want to deal with it. There's better stories about figure skating at this time that could be told.
But this is I, Tonya. So
But yeah.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, the reason
But
this movie's function doesn't work for me.
But there might be better stories, but there was no story as big as this one.
Yeah.
Like,
This is all
in
anybody was
figure
talking about.
skating.
yeah, like
Yeah. But I also even feel like the perspective of that, like, was so skewed in this in a way that just wasn't, I don't know.
the one thing that I thought was weird they included in this movie, just speaking perspective, is they really tried to make it look like they were trying to take Galuli's side into account. Like just by having him as one of like the talking heads in between different parts of the movie, it was an odd choice of like it was this kind of bullshit like, oh no, we're listening to him too, like it's both sides' point of view, and it's like clearly it's not. Like,
Well, they cast Sebastian Stan, who is inherently lovable.
yeah. Although he plays a wonderful son of a bitch, like in both this
Yeah.
and
He's so good.
if you've ever seen The Bronze, I've mentioned the podcast before. It's basically kind of
He's a douche in the bronze.
it's kind of the same movie as I, Tonya, except with all fake people and a fake Olympics, but it's kind of the same thing. Sebastian Stan plays a very different character in that one, though, but he's also in that, which is kind of weird. But he plays such a good, just, like, dullard. Like, he's just kind of an idiot. Like,
Well, he's toxic masculinity. We're like, I need to take care of my woman, whether or not she realizes that she needs me. She does, and I'm gonna do this, and she's gonna thank me later.
it's not even that she needs me. It's she doesn't know that she's mine. She does not know that she's my
that's what I
property.
mean.
Yeah, I
And,
think
like,
we all have met men like that.
yeah, and
And-
he's convinced that he's a good guy while he's doing it.
he's
for
a
sure.
great normal dude. He's
And he-
kind of meek.
I imagine. I mean, I know they base this off interviews, but I can picture him still today being like, "Well, I did it because I loved her. It's not."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even in the
Most of that didn't happen.
In the
Yeah.
finality of his interview, he expresses remorse for his. I mean, like the one time when he really expresses remorse is like, "I ruined her career," and it's still kind of about him. Like
He
his
ruined
choice.
his meal ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also
This
love
fucking
how
guy.
he started the interview by saying, "Sorry, I inflicted that mustache on the world," while also having
Oh, that
really
turd
terrible.
shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was yeah. Sebastian Stan was great. He really was.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it yeah.
And then he has
Oh
a
my God.
friend that's even the
Oh,
worse.
that guy's
Oh.
The most deluded, like experience. Like you're how frustrated you are with Tonya. I'm frustrated with the idea of anyone being around this person.
I'm
Like,
just,
how could you be
like
friends
a
with him?
secret,
I have a colleague who's very much like Sean, but like less murdery.
Same.
Like,
I wonder if
I'm
it's
a
the same
secret
colleague. We'll have to
agent.
compare notes because I also was
I
thinking
can
I have a
almost
friend
get-
who's exactly
yeah,
like this.
no,
You have
it's- I
friends
can
that
guarantee
talk
he's
about things
not.
that they obviously
No,
do
I
not
have
do.
friends
Yeah,
who-
there's so many people like that. I
Yeah.
call them
Oh,
the
yeah.
I know karate kids because they're the little chubby kid on the playground that's like, I know karate.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna tell my dad on you.
I have a friend who's a really great person, but he talks exactly like that guy with the
Ugh.
blinking and the kind of like.
I can't.
Yeah, the way-
I used to work
can't.
with a guy at Starbucks who was like that. Like we've all met people. At least
Yeah.
most of us
I mean,
have met
I've
people.
met them, but I keep them as far away from me as I possibly can.
Because
My
they're
friend is nice. He's
horrible.
just-
Well, I mean, they could be nice people, but it's just like the constant lying, and like, and this guy's lying got to a point where he
Yeah.
had the FBI come to knock on his door.
Oh, I guess
Still
the best
trying to be like, I'm an expert in
I guess the
espionage.
best way I
and
can say it,
counterterrorism. And I'm like,
It's
oh man,
like-
that line.
Brian, we've had people that we've run into in our lives, and
terrorist.
I've described to you like how I have an instant like physical aversion to them, and I usually use the word desperate.
Sure.
Like when I'm around somebody that starts talking themselves up and like the false confidence, making up stories about how great you are, it just has this like greasy feeling of like utter desperation for approval, and I have a physical like response to that. I can't be around those people, and so that's why I'm having it towards this character in this movie. But like every time he's on the screen, I was just like, I want to leave the room.
It really reminds me of this is just for Chewie and I'm gonna bleep his name. Like this character is the character Sean reminded me of that guy, because it was just like this guy who would just he's my best example of like, oh yeah, I met with De Niro today and he really liked my script and he thinks he's gonna make it with me if he has time, but he might not have time, and it was just a phone call and I scheduled a phone call with his assistant. And it's like, whoa, that fell apart fast. It's like, if you're gonna lie, at least stick to your original lie. And that's kind of the thing with Sean, is like Sean was just the best at like, FBI shows at the door, we're here for Sean. I'm not him. Sean, who's at the door? Fuck. It's just like,
Yeah, it's not me.
Yeah.
And now I love the cuts of him going, I didn't tell anybody. And then immediately tells like every single person he's run into the past 24 hours.
It's a great scene.
and it's like, we've met those people. Everyone knows somebody like that. And it's like, oh.
But you're not. But I am.
Yeah.
But you're not. But I am.
If I was ever like that, I apologize to everyone who was around me at the time. Because if I was never self-aware to know that I was that crappy of a person, I really feel sorry for anyone who had to listen to it.
I don't apologize, because it made
I
me the
know
man
I
I am today.
I was very different when I was younger and much more eager, and I would pretend that I knew more than I did, but I don't know if I was like this or not.
That's different from being a pathological
Yeah.
liar.
Yeah, there's something.
And an expert
Everybody in LA
counterterrorism.
name drops. That's
Yeah, it's
that's
just
the thing we all do. But yeah, being
But
a-
not
I've already done
everyone
this
is an
podcast
expert
once.
in counterterrorism.
Sorry, that counterterrorism line slays me.
It's so good. They're like, but you're not. But I am. Like the whole.
But
Just
we-
fucking. Here's proof in front of your face, and he's like, nope, just
I
did
like
not.
how-
It wasn't me.
He says it was in a travel magazine a while ago. This is like the type of
Yeah,
magazine no one would even know.
Right.
I read about it in a travel magazine once.
Yeah, okay.
Oh boy. Is there anything we haven't talked about that we'd like to talk about? We're at about an hour on this thing. We can move into quotes if nobody has anything else.
Well, one part of the movie that made me really sad, if this happened in her real life, like I don't know if it happened the way it did, it's just when her dad left.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because
I had a hard time with that one.
I'm watching that going, you could have been happy. I don't know. This guy might still have been a shit father. He is just leaving you and then not paying alimony or child support later on. But that's a whole timeline, alternative universe scenario where she might not have been a figure skater, but who knows? Maybe in that one instance, if her father had taken her with him, she might have been happy. And it's like every time I watch it, I think about that.
That kid did an amazing job of the performance.
Yeah.
It hurt me to watch. It was so good.
Yeah.
And
That
so
kid
painful.
is everywhere right now. Like, she's
Yeah.
popping up and everything. I think I could be
She
wrong.
is the doe-eyed blonde girl to cast.
I could be wrong, but she is in the cast list for it. I think she's Little Captain Marvel.
Oh.
I could be wrong. She's the only child in the movie, so she just might be a kid in the Captain Marvel movie. But it would make sense to make her.
Her
Little
eyes
Captain
do
Marvel.
not match up with
Brie Larson.
Brie
can
Larson's
fix that.
eyes, but
Ah, damn. Why
They'll
don't we
be
have Brie
less
Larson on the
doe-eyed when
cheese
she gets
puns the last
older.
episode? Okay, so I would say let's move into quotes. Quotes.
I like when Tonya says, I'm America's best figure skater. I don't want an Eskimo pie. Because the two are related.
That's fantastic.
I do like the first line we get from Margot Robbie when she comes on the screen as Tonya Harding is just her getting in another woman's face going, "You're in my way." And that's all.
Yeah.
That's our intro to Tonya Harding is with Margot Robbie.
And that's a very calculated first line.
Yeah.
Like,
While being skewed by having braces.
yeah. My line was going to be this, and then I'm changing it. But I like the just the moment of Margot Robbie talking to Sebastian Stan, like, "So what are you gonna do now that school's over?" It's like, you bitches are in your 30s. Get the fuck out of this high school bullshit. But the line I will go with, it comes from Sean, because I think he just is so quotable throughout this entire movie. And it's when they're first discussing mailing the letters that eventually turned into breaking Ned Scarrigan's knee. I probably shouldn't be saying his name, Derek.
We didn't talk about their characters at all. Talk about two buffoons,
Oh,
like
God.
literal, like representations of buffoons who are in over their head.
Why would you ever let Sean plan anything?
He moved his car every 15 minutes to avoid suspicion.
Oh, no, Bobby Cannavale, by the way, we did not
So
talk
good.
about.
That was amazing.
And that was like one day of shooting. And he just,
Oh, yeah,
like,
he-
it was so great.
Well, he was busy with Jumanji.
Putting on his eyeliner.
Yeah, that takes days. Next.
When Tonya goes up to the judges and says, "Suck my dick."
I've mentioned it before. It's the scene with I'm drawing a blank on his name. The counter-terrorist.
Sean.
And his like that. No, you aren't. Yes, I am. Exchange. Just the eye lilt and the kind of like the. Oh, okay. Yes, I am. No, you're not. And just that slow speech delivery. Perfect.
So good. Is that everybody? Yes? Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, so review system today I think should be easy, but we'll see. Biopics. Any and all biopics.
I didn't think immediately. I knew no matter what you said, I knew what movie I was going to pick because it's the perfect companion piece to this movie. What's Love Got to Do with It?
Okay.
It's about a woman who became super famous and is still alive, and her husband beat the shit out of her, and she got out of that situation. She's had a much more successful ending to her story, but it's really good.
I'll go with Walk the Line, because it's about a very flawed man, Johnny Cash, who I had a very strong attachment to in my youth. And it's also a movie that shows some of the really shitty shit he did in his life. Like, he did terrible things. He cheated on his wife. He did a lot of drugs. He was kind of a violent man, and for a long time until he got sober. And the movie shows it, but you're always on his side the whole time. Like, because it kind of glamorizing it in a way where it's like, yeah, he did this stuff, but it's okay, because later on he was really okay. And it's a great movie.
Let's see. That was going to be mine. So
Oh, sorry.
I will change gears, and I'm going to go... This one's it's a little connected, it's a little not. I'm going to go with Man on the Moon. And I'm going with because clearly the people involved are trying to pay as much respect to the person that the movie's about as humanly possible. I don't think I, Tonya nails it quite as well as Man on the Moon did, as it's just a love letter to Andy Kaufman. But I think they both did a pretty good job of just like, hey, we just want to show these people and their side of things.
I'm going to go with The Big Short because I referenced it earlier.
Yeah, that works.
Well-edited story about shitty people who are still alive.
Is that a biopic about Wall Street? Like,
It's about real people, I guess.
It's a group of real people who did a lot of shit, who dicked over a lot of innocent working class folks.
one of them felt bad about it.
I'll go with Raging Bull because of the boxing connection. Also, it
The
it
boxing
some-
connection.
it has,
I like that for a movie.
it has some cool stylistic things, but I mean, it's not really exact in what it's
Some
saying.
cool sights. It's one of the most well-shot movies in history.
Yeah.
Like, it changed the game of how you shoot movies.
Yeah.
And it has some cool things. That is the most, like, downplayed way to describe Raging Bull ever.
Yeah, I'm nothing if not downplayed.
Brian, remember how he downplayed Horizon Zero Dawn for you?
Oh, my God. That one, too.
John,
I've
you were great.
started doing that after overhyping things to you. And having points, so now,
Yeah, you're really good at making somebody I could end up loving something else then.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
British.
yeah.
I mean, it
was a good-
did its job well.
Raging Bull, yeah. I mean, it was shot well. It was shot amazing.
Had some neat camera movements.
I don't know why it was in black and white. And it was
There's an actor fellow in that movie. That's
I have still never
quite
seen
decent.
Raging Bull.
I haven't either.
Yeah. Brian's just gonna die.
Brian has lost it.
movie's amazing.
No, but what this points out is like I think I've seen as far as biopics go, Raging Bull, this movie, and A Beautiful Mind. That's about it.
I would bet you've seen more, and you
I just don't realize it.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, wait, King's Speech, but that like I, Tonya is like years above King's
I hate
Speech.
King's Speech so much.
Everything is above King's Speech. for me.
King's Speech is perfect Oscar fodder.
It is. It is the quintessential Oscar.
I
bait.
want an Oscar.
All right, but that brings today's episode to a close. I will do our quick round of plugs, and then we will get out of this thing. Be sure to check out our other show, Adventure Bros, Adventure Brothers Podcast, and read our articles on athpod.com. That's it for me.
I'm not doing any commissions right now, so if you want a costume, especially if you're not local, you can order a 13th Doctor cosplay coat from my Etsy shop called Emily Blake Sews. If you are local, even if you're not, we can work it out, and you want a cosplay costume, you know, SDCC's coming up, kids. EmilyBlakeSews.com.
Yeah, youngins, youths.
Anybody else have anything to plug?
Just check out our YouTube channel where we're putting our episodes on. That's about it.
I already made my plug joke.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was fun. Oh, I will say this one last thing for me. If you are a fan of Fiverr, I have an account on there under Censor Lord. Censor is spelled with a Z. Pay me $5 to $10. I'll read your script and send you notes. I've been doing it for a girl from Sweden who has been writing a very epic trilogy that I can't say anything about, but it's been a lot of fun reading that, and then I've been doing it for a few other people, and I've gotten pretty good feedback on my feedback, so apparently I know what I'm doing. So if you'd like to hire me on there, check it out. I also offer to cut and edit podcasts for people on there as well, but nobody's taken me up on that one yet, even though I've been doing this shit for 6 years. I know what I'm doing. That's it for us, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Bye!
Bye.